Linda, and I'm a healer and a coach. And in this channel, we talk about healing and emotional intelligence subjects and how we can use them to create a more fulfilling and joyful life. Today, I want to talk about integrity. And I first am going to give you what my definition of integrity is, and then just give you some examples of how that shows up in my day-to-day life or our day-to-day life, but also how we can learn to tell or differentiate when our choices are coming from a place of integrity. So first, my definition of integrity is taking action in alignment with who we are and where we are at that particular point in time in our journey. And the reason why I choose those words very carefully is because I don't believe that integrity is something that is static. That, for example, if you choose to be X, Y, or Z, and that's an integrity for you right now, that doesn't mean that that's also going to be an integrity for you tomorrow, or a week from today, or a year from today. And I think that's a misconception that we have. As human beings, we are meant to grow and expand and evolve. And our integrity is a reflection of who we are. And if we are changing and growing and evolving, so will our integrity. So one example that I can give you is I have this friend of mine who is also from Puerto Rico. We didn't grow up together, but he also grew up in Puerto Rico. And for those of you, I assume most people here would know, but in Latin America, especially in the Caribbean, eating meat is a part of daily life, right? It's very rare. As a matter of fact, when I grew up in Puerto Rico in the 80s, I never knew anybody who was vegetarian. I didn't even know that such a thing existed. That is something that I only started seeing and experiencing over the last couple of decades of my life. So in Puerto Rico at the time that I grew up there and the time that my friend grew up there, vegetarianism wasn't really a thing, right? Because we grew up and we were raised eating meat, mostly pork and beef. So when he was growing up, that was part of his daily life, and that was in integrity with who he was at that moment in time. Now, more recently, over the last few years, he's decided, for a variety of reasons that I'm not going to get into in this video, to become a vegetarian, and he no longer eats meat. That choice, that decision, is something that is in integrity for him at this particular moment in his life. And I think that most people think, again, that integrity is static. And as you can see, it isn't, because it's not that by being a vegetarian now, his choice of eating meat, whatever, 10, 20 years ago was out of integrity, or that by eating meat at the time, him becoming a vegetarian now is out of integrity. They are actually in alignment with who he was at each particular point in time. So it is important to recognize that alignment, that integrity is being in alignment with who you are at that point in time. The other thing that I want to discuss is this idea that integrity is tied to morality, or what is right and what is wrong. For me in particular, morality is something that I've always said is relative. Well, not always, but as I evolved in my journey, I tend to believe that morality is something that is relative. Now, I know that could be controversial for some people, because we tend to believe that there are certain things, certain morals, right, that are universal in nature. And I'm not here to argue whether that's true or not. But what I will say is that in my experience, I found that morality is really more of a product of your upbringing, your cultural upbringing, as well as your religious, social, familial upbringing, etc. What you consider right or wrong, or moral or immoral, oftentimes has more to do with how you were raised and where you were raised and whom you were raised by than it does with your own internal moral compass, or what I would consider your own personal integrity. So for example, a lot of things that I was raised Catholic. I grew up in Puerto Rico. I'm not a Catholic anymore, but that's how I was raised. And a lot of things that I would believe that are moral or immoral, someone who grew up under a different religion, like say maybe Judaism or Islam or whatever, may not consider, they may not look at it in the same way. So to me, what is integrity has nothing to do with morality. and what we consider to be right or wrong. So for example, something that everybody, I think pretty much every religion in the world considers to be immoral is the idea of killing someone else, right? If you kill someone else, that's bad. Of course it is. I'm not saying that it isn't. But if you would permit me for a minute and take a moment to take a step back and view it with a little bit of a different perspective, if someone breaks into your house and you kill that person in self-defense, you actually still killed a human being. But would you consider that immoral? Because the truth is that had you not killed that person, you probably would have been killed yourself, so it was done in self-defense. Now, is that considered immoral? And that's sort of the question, that's an example of why I question this idea of morality. But more importantly, wherever you fall in that perspective, more importantly is that to recognize that, at least for me, and what I'm presenting in this video is that integrity and morality have really nothing to do with each other. Integrity is about staying true to who you are, how you feel, and where you are at that moment in time, irrespective of what is happening around you or what you were taught to believe. Okay? Life is very complicated, especially nowadays. And I personally have found that choices with a right or wrong answer are few and far between in my life. So I think it is actually a lot more helpful to try and make choices that are in alignment with who you are, how you feel, and where you are at that particular point in time in your journey. Now, what is important is that if we are going to be doing this, in order for us to be able to be in alignment and know when we are in alignment, we have to do our own work, right? We actually have to work on our own development, our own evolution. Because all of us have trauma, whether it's, most of us have childhood trauma, most of us have trauma that got either reinforced or created also in an adult life. So it is important that we do our own work to be able to learn and get to understand all of those subconscious strategies and patterns that we have in place in order to be able to tap into who we really are and who we truly are, and to be able to learn what integrity feels like in our body. Because you actually can get, when you're actually making choices and decisions that are in integrity with who you are, you can actually feel that in your body. At least I can, and I believe most people that I know can as well. And there, integrity has a particular sense, like it actually feels calm in your body. And oftentimes when you're making choices out of integrity, they can also feel expansive, like actually physically expansive, as opposed to a contraction in your physical body. So in order for you to learn and to develop those skills to differentiate what's an integrity and what isn't, you really need to focus on unraveling all of your own subconscious strategies and patterns and do your own work. In fact, I actually created a program. It's a short program that you can use to start tapping in to your unconscious and start figuring out, what some of your unconscious patterns are, as well as your unconscious desires, abilities, gifts, etc. So if you're interested in that, I will put the link to my website in the description of this video. You could go there and look at it and get a little bit more information on that. But it really is imperative that we start doing our work and actively work on our evolution in order to be able to decipher what is an integrity and what isn't. Another thing that I can actually also mention is that developing that skill of learning what is an integrity for you is very similar to developing your intuitive skills. And there is another video in this channel. I don't remember the full title of it, but it's blah, 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 intuition, blah, blah, blah. So the word intuition is in the title. And that video actually gives you some tips on how you can go ahead and develop your intuition. And those tips are actually very helpful in this case to also learn how to learn what is an integrity for you and what isn't, because they're actually very similar. So as always, I hope that this video was helpful to you. If you want to learn more about me or about my work and my services, like I said before, I will put the link to my website in the description to this video, so feel free to visit it and get as much information as you want. And again, I would love to hear what your definition of integrity is. If you feel that this video resonated with you, please feel free to put that in the comments. And as always, until next time, namaste.